The Hellraiser universe is full of terrifying stuff. Obnoxious Cenobites, mutilated bodies, you name it. Everything in this franchise has a pretty gruesome vibe. Sticking to that same dark tradition, we're diving into the story of another Hellraiser character whose lust and madness led him to be tortured and killed by Pinhead, eventually turning him into a pseudo-Cenobite. Wondering what a pseudo-Cenobite is? Don't worry, we'll explain it all. The character we're talking about first shows up in the 1992 movie Hellraiser 3: Hell on Earth. Meet Pistonhead, aka JP Monroe, and his journey down a dark path that leads to some serious consequences. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Do you own this place?
Got everything in it.
JP Monroe is a love-deprived teenager. Before being transformed into a Cenobite and being named Pistonhead, JP Monroe led a rather lavish life. Born into an aristocratic family, he had access to all kinds of material wealth, although neither his father nor his mother cared about providing any kind of love or affection to their kid. This absence of affection created a deep void in Monroe's heart, and was one of the grave reasons why he murdered both his parents in his early adolescence. This ghastly act not only calmed down his resentment, but also made him inherit his parents' fortune, which he was now free to splurge on whatever he wanted. From his newly acquired wealth, Monroe purchased a popular nightclub, the Boiler Room. Being the kind of womanizer he was, this multi-purpose venue kind of suited his business taste. Pillar of Souls. Monroe was also an avid collector of dark and tortured artwork. To fulfill his fascination with disturbing art pieces, he once visited an art gallery, where he stumbled upon a pillar carved with statues called the Pillar of Souls. Monroe is instantly intrigued by the artifact, which looks like a fusion of tortured figures. He proceeds to buy it and puts it on display inside the club. But unbeknownst to Monroe, this artifact has the leader of the Cenobites, Pinhead, trapped inside it, along with the mysterious puzzle box. Untold horrors are in store for him. Monroe's girlfriend Terry steals a part of the artifact, which turns out to be the Lament configuration. Once released, the puzzle box kills one of Terry's friends with its infamous hook, screw, and nail torture. Monroe had now moved the Pillar of Souls to his bedroom, and one day, while inspecting his recent acquisition, he was bitten by a rat, and happened to spill some blood from his fingers onto the pillar. This act awakens Pinhead inside the Pillar of Souls, who now lies dormant, waiting to pounce at the right moment.
Jesus Christ.
Not quite.
Monroe's encounter with Pinhead. Completely unaware of the existence of Pinhead in his bedroom, Monroe carries on with his spoiled lifestyle and manages to seduce a vulnerable clubgoer named Sandy. He invites her to his bedroom, where they proceed to have rough sex, with still not a hint as to the dormant Pinhead watching from the background. After his lust is fulfilled, the cruel misogynist inside Monroe prompts Sandy to leave his place immediately, which enrages her to no end. This results in a heated argument between them, where Sandy is unknowingly drawn toward the pillar. When she gets close enough, Pinhead awakens and devours her immediately after skinning her alive. Monroe is completely terrified by what he sees and tries to eliminate Pinhead with his pistol, but soon realizes it's of no use. Meanwhile, Pinhead is able to easily manipulate Monroe into bringing more clubgoers to feed upon, so that he can complete his resurrection. Monroe is devastated by Pinhead, but has no choice but to agree. Pinhead also lures him with the prospect of expecting unparalleled power and unnatural pleasures beyond his normal human reach, which Monroe finds quite intriguing. The transportation, JP Monroe to Pistonhead. Now, Monroe had made a commitment with Pinhead. Not only was he terrified of the leader of the Cenobites, but he was also quite fascinated with Pinhead's lucrative offer of otherworldly pleasures, and he was ready to do anything to achieve it. At that moment, he decides to feed his girlfriend Terry to Pinhead. Terry is clearly upset with him, but Monroe calls her up and convinces her with his smooth talking. He plays on her emotions, getting her to visit him at the club, which she reluctantly agrees to. Once they're alone in his private quarters, Monroe starts sweet-talking her again. He promises her a fresh start in their relationship, and even says he wants to hug her, all while standing close to the Pillar of Souls. Terry reluctantly goes toward Monroe to hug him, but changes her mind at the last second and tries to walk back, but Monroe catches her and doesn't let go. Meanwhile, Pinhead is awake and orders Monroe to bring him the girl at any cost. After a bit of a struggle, JP gets control over Terry and starts dragging her on the floor toward the pillar. However, this time, Terry takes out a brass knuckle duster and hits JP, making him immobile, while she tries to run out of the room immediately. Just then, she's instructed to stop by a firm voice. Seeing his original plan with Monroe failing, Pinhead now starts talking to Terry. She just wants to go home, but Pinhead explains to her the banality of the world and promises her similar power and pleasure that he had just offered Monroe if she would work to feed him. An already terrified Terry decides to sacrifice an unconscious Monroe by pushing him towards Pinhead. By the time Monroe regains a bit of consciousness, it's too late. Pinhead immediately catches JP in his infamous hooks. Once Monroe is caught, he suffers a gruesome death, as two pistons are jammed directly into his skull, killing him instantly as Terry watches in disgust. Sometime later, Pinhead kills her too and transforms both JP Monroe and his girlfriend Terry into Cenobites, who will serve his purpose. Monroe emerges as a pseudo-Cenobite in the climax of Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth, with pistons embedded inside his head. But what's a pseudo-Cenobite? Cenobites are usually created in special chambers in Hell, but some skip the process and become pseudo-Cenobites instead. These guys function just like regular Cenobites, but keep their human memories, which isn't the case for the originals. The idea of pseudo-Cenobites first came up in Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth. In the movie, Pinhead takes over a bar and uses the people there to create his pseudos, managing to transform 5 of them. JP Monroe, with the pistons shoved into his head, earned the nickname Pistonhead. Even though Monroe didn't last long, he was one of the nastiest and most brutal characters in the third movie. Pistonhead's eventual fate. Monroe tried to trick Terry into the Pillar of Souls, but got himself trapped instead. After his brutal death at the hands of Pinhead, Monroe shows up again toward the end of the movie. This time, he's with the other Cenobites, going after Joey at a construction site. Pinhead sends them to torture Joey, but she already has the lament configuration and solves it quickly. This sends all the Cenobites, including Pistonhead, straight to hell. This was Pistonhead's last appearance in the Hellraiser universe, as he never appeared in any of the franchise's movies. Not much is known about his current whereabouts or status, but considering he was already a pseudo-Cenobite and then pushed into hell, he could have gone through the full Cenobite transformation. Whether that happened or not, we'll have to wait and see. Marvelous verdict. Like most people before him who knowingly or unknowingly summoned or got into contact with Pinhead, Monroe too was a misogynist pervert whose greed and lust got the better of him. He was just pure evil disguised in a sexy and charming package. Actor Kevin Bernhardt had done a memorable job portraying such a character as loathsome. Even after more than 30 years of its release, this character from Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth is still one of the most hated characters in the Hellraiser franchise. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.